Andrew Wilson nukes woke feminists over her dumb arguments, and this idiotic woke feminist has no arguments for Andrew Wilson. And all because men have dating preferences. She got triggered by what Andrew Wilson said. But as usual, Andrew Wilson stands his ground against the woke feminist claim over the impact these preferences might have on age gap relationships. And she doesn't see what Andrew Wilson is trying to share with her. And Andrew Wilson here on the Whatever podcast absolutely destroys this woke feminist as she fights to win a debate that she was never going to win in the first place. So let's get into this clip where Andrew Wilson nukes this woke feminist here on the Whatever podcast.
You're against them for a multitude of reasons. Why is that?
Because of the natural imbalance that can happen within a age gap relationship for both genders. Naturally, someone who's much older is going to have more education, they're going to have more life experience, they're going to have a bigger income. And because of that imbalance, there is a higher risk for abuse or manipulation. That's why I'm against them. And I will add that I am a child of an age gap relationship. My father is 19 years older than my mother. And I have several family members that are in age gap relationships, and I have seen them negatively be affected by them.
Should your parents get divorced?
Yes. My mother was 21 when she divorced my father.
Can I ask you a question?
Oh, okay. Not were they divorced. Would you recommend that all of your friends who are in age gap relationships get a divorce?
I think it depends per relationship and the amount of age that the gap is. So, for example, if it's 10 years or younger, that's
so
fine.
Let's say you had one that are in a 15-year age gap relationship, a friend. Mm-hmm. They've been married for 5 years, and they have 2 kids together. Would you recommend that they go ahead and get divorced?
If the woman is being any kind of abused or isn't...
Well, no, she says that she absolutely adores him, and he says the same thing, and they have kids together, and they seem happy. Should they get a divorce?
Then I wouldn't recommend a divorce if they're happy.
Then age gaps themselves are not the problem then.
I would still say it's a problem just because of all of the reasons I listed earlier of like the older person having a power imbalance.
What is the power imbalance?
Like I said, they have more money, they have more life experience. It's
What if
easier
they
to
don't,
manipulate the younger person into believing, okay, I'm this perfect like partner that's going to, do all of these things for you, and then in the end, they're maybe like not paying all the bills. You're trying to make sure that you're staying home.
But can't that happen in an age similar relationship?
Okay, I can give you a perfect example. My mother immigrated here with my father at 18, pregnant with me. My father was the provider. My father went out and worked. But a lot of times the lights would go out because he wasn't paying the electric bill. Mm-hmm. He was gambling. My mother, it wasn't until my mother started speaking full English and was able to go get a job that we were able to reliably stay in a home.
What does that have anything to do?
I'm going to need more people out here, not just her, but more people out there to understand that the world is not the way it is in their homes. Okay. Meaning that her argument against age gap relationships is also the things that she states happen in the age gap relationships even with her parents and stuff are also happening in relationships where the man and woman are either the same age, 1 year apart, 2 year apart, 3 years apart, 4 years apart, so on and so forth. Okay, it's no different. Okay, yes, we know that there's like a lot of older men out there who are immature, but just the same way as a lot of younger men out there are immature. But there's also men out there who are wiser from experience and stuff. And they've learned a lot, they experience more and everything, that they know how to not only be better husbands, boyfriends, but also live individually. Okay, you can't compare the relationships of others based on what you're seeing from your parents. Okay, the relationships that people have are different because the two people that's in said relationships are different from what your parents are. Okay, I'm gonna need for her to get that basic mentality right there in her mind and stuff, as well as to explain it, to understand it further. I mean, she's being asked all these questions, and yet she keep putting out the examples from her parents, how her dad treated her mom and everything, what her mom did, so on and so forth. Okay, Just be real. You just don't like older men and stuff. I mean, that's what a lot of people will be getting from this particular thing, as well as the fact that, let's keep it a bean. She's talking about an imbalance and stuff. Let's be real. When she says imbalance with other women like her, not all women, but when other women like her say imbalance, that means the woman's not able to control her man. Okay, that's all it is. Because there's like a lot of these women out there controlling these men who don't even have a backbone and stuff, who we call beta males and stuff. All right, that they want to be able to control them. And that's why a lot of good men out there are being rejected by a lot of these women, because these women see that they know their worth and that they can't control them.
Those things could manifest themselves in an equal age relationship.
Well, that's also culturally informed. So they were coming from which nation?
Lebanon.
Yeah, so there it's very
where age
common.
gap relationships are very common.
Yeah, not only very common, but so are incestuous relationships, right?
Yes.
Also very common.
Cousins get married there.
First cousins.
Yes, yes, they
so
do.
The thing is like, the idea of having the cultural information, being culturally informed, don't you think that here in the United States, there's a huge distinction between, they're 16, 17, 18 in Iran and they're marrying a 30-year-old because that's part of how they keep legacies together with their first cousins or whatever, and various things like this. And I live in the United States and can freely choose who I'm with, and I have very different cultural information.
But those kinds of marriages happen here too.
No,
17-year-olds get married, 18-year-olds get married.
They're not arranged marriages.
I personally know a 19-year-old that got married to a 53-year-old.
Okay.
What's the issue
And they
with
they were constantly boasting their age gap relationship. And they ended up getting divorced.
Yeah,
and
but
she
let's say
ended
they
up getting
didn't,
verbally and emotionally abused.
But let's say they didn't end up getting divorced.
Imbalance.
Hang on.
Yeah, control
But
imbalance.
let's say they didn't end up getting divorced, and let's say there was no emotional abuse, and let's say they had 2 kids, and let's say right now they were still happy. What would your issue then? Would you have an issue with it? With the age
No,
gap
because
itself?
for me, my issue with the age gap comes with the power imbalance.
So
and
your
the-
issue is not with
the-
age gaps, it's with power imbalances.
Yes and no, because there's still that maturity level that you reach when
But
you
it's
get
not-
to a certain
yeah.
age, and
Life
then
experience.
But it's not inherent to the thing, right? So anytime I ask you what's the actual issue with the age gap, you point to things that have nothing to do with the age gap itself. So if it's the case that you had an age gap where the power was not imbalanced from your view,
She's saying
then
life
that age gap,
experience.
Right.
Well, but even then, you could have like a 30-year-old shut-in guy who marries a 19-year-old who's traveled with her parents all over the world. Then the experience seems equally yoked or similarly
but
yoked.
she's not emotionally mature because her prefrontal cortex has not fully developed.
Then why is she allowed to vote?
That's different than entering a marriage.
Well,
That's far
affecting
different.
the outcome of
You
far
can
different,
vote.
because if I
You can
enter a
vote on
marriage-
who can vote. Or you can vote on who can get married, but you can't get married.
No, I mean, you can get married, but I would think that it would be to a detriment or inappropriate for an 18-year-old to get married to a 30-year-old or a 50-year-old.
Yeah,
Because again,
But I don't-
there's not just life experience, there's education, there's emotional maturity.
Yeah, but do you see like the conflation you're doing here? An 18-year-old, let's say she gets married to a 31-year-old guy. That to you, no go, right? That's
Yes.
like no go.
Yes.
Can the 18-year-old, though, override the vote of the 31-year-old guy?
Override?
Yeah, meaning she can nullify his vote by just voting against
I wouldn't
him.
agree that. I mean, I would say they both deserve the right to vote.
They both have the right, but she
Yes.
can vote against him, which nullifies his vote.
I guess.
Yeah, so
Yes.
so how is she informed enough to do that? She's informed enough to vote against him for all social issues in society, but is not informed enough to date him.
Because I think that relationships and voting for a society are two different
Yeah, one's way
things.
more important, and that would be
One-
voting for societal
It
issues, right?
involves a bunch of people
But
to override each
being
other's
in a
votes.
relationship,
This is only 2 people.
Right, that's
Very
right.
effective.
But being
It's
in a
only 2
relationship, you
people,
put your
but
body
now
and your
you're
mental
letting an
health at risk.
18-year-old vote in my interests, but at the same time saying that it would be somehow immoral if somebody my age dated one. And it's like, wait, what? That's bizarre. Not saying that I would. I'm just pointing out this hypocrisy, or not hypocrisy, but contradiction.
You guys
Man, it's like, okay, Andrew Wilson has definitely stated a lot of good things here, but one particular thing that Andrew Wilson reminded me of is there's even TikToks of people sharing these, things of the where somebody who's younger that's approaching them. prime example, a man who's in his 50s and stuff. He recorded the girl and stuff, stating she's 18 years old, by the way. He stated that she approached him and reminded her that he's too old for her and she's too young for him. But she's so adamant and everything that she was one who was pursuing him. Okay. There's a number of women out there between the ages of 18 to even in their 30s and stuff who love older men. Okay. And that's what Andrew Wilson is simply trying to state here. It's their choice. Okay. It's mutual. All right. There's a number of older men out there who are like, I don't want to, be with a woman that's younger because it's going to make me uncomfortable. Okay, they accept that. But whenever it's two people and stuff, like a younger woman and an older man and everything in a relationship with each other, whether it's like 10 years, 15 years, or even like 30 years apart and stuff, all of a sudden that's a big red flag, okay? That the man is trying to control the woman, the younger woman take advantage of her. They even bring up the whole prefrontal cortex and not being fully developed argument and all of that. And every time they bring that up, Andrew Wilson, as well as others, rightfully have the right to go ahead and bring up voting. Okay, because that's where a lot of decision making is taking place. Okay, and simple fact of the matter is, I agree with Andrew Wilson. If she is able to vote and make a decision on who she believes is a good fit in office of any kind of political office, then she also is able to make the decisions of who she wants to be with. Okay. Even if it doesn't, turn out to be good, hopefully, if she is no longer attracted to the guy, it's like when they're not married, at least yet, and whatever, because it's like they're adults still, even whether their prefrontal cortex or is developed or undeveloped and stuff, but that doesn't matter. Okay, that doesn't matter. It's the decisions that they made, and it's mutual between two consenting adults, and that's something that they don't want to admit.
These aren't coming together as a unit, though. You're just what would that intermeshing in society.
Yeah, but the thing is like if you can vote against my interest, right? Then we're considering you the same type of adult that I am. And so if that's the case, if you're being imbued with the power of being the same kind of adult as me, then suddenly this saying that, hey, I'm going to infantilize women or infantilize young men and tell them that they can't do X or shouldn't do X, that seems silly to me. It's like, are they adults or are they not adults?
They're adults, but they live and they learn. And if they come across a man that's not then, that just because he's older doesn't make him acting like makes him at that point.
But that's true at any age.
My relationships have all these different
circumstances. Yeah, isn't that true at any age? Like women at 21 dating a 21-year-old should avoid 21-year-old
target minors, and at 18 they have that choice to go and date an older man, and if they do so, there might be consequences. It might be great. They might get abused.
There's also 18-year-old girls who target lonely men. Like, so what?
That's exactly what I was talking about. Okay. I mean, in this case, it wasn't the older man. He wasn't lonely, whatever. I mean, I don't know what his thing was going on, whether he's lonely or not, but he was approached by an 18-year-old girl. Or should I say an 18-year-old woman? Okay. And why is it that when it comes to like debating age gap relationships, these different feminists out here always, refer to the younger women as minors? I mean, they're over 18. In some states, the 17 is the age of consent. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that, if I was single, I would be with the 17-year-old, because in the state that I live in, the age of consent is 18. Okay. But at the same time, it's like, it's two consenting adults. That's all it is. No minors involved. There's like a lot of men out there who don't really date younger women. And some of them end up in an age gap relationship with them because of the fact that they love her character. They love her willingness to, follow his lead and stuff. Not for him to control her, but to actually show her that he's willing to protect her. And if he's willing to protect her, that means he's willing to lead her. Okay, he's trying to protect who he's leading. All right, not like a dad with a daughter and everything. And don't get me started with that argument, because it's like they're stating that, these girls out here are going after older men because of daddy issues and stuff. The father wasn't always present. But guess what? A number of them are actually going for the older men because they themselves have fathers who are present in their lives and who was there for them. All right. And it's also funny because these very things also happen with women who are trying to look for men who are around their age bracket and stuff, who are trying to get them to take care of them as if they were their fathers instead of husbands, where they're not reciprocating the same energy.
That is a way lower number of people.
Based on what? No. You said men who are specifically targeting 18-year-olds to date them.
So
does that
18
by the
younger
way,
women?
Wait, what?
Yeah, you're targeting an 18-year-old to date her. That makes you free.
No, what makes you a is if it's not consensual. At 18,
Right.
They can consent. That is their right to do so.
That's my whole point.
She just contradicted herself also. I'm sorry to talk again at this point, but why is it that when it's some older man and stuff with a younger woman, they're a predator? But if it's an older woman who's pursuing a younger man, she's living her life to the fullest. She is on top. She's, powerful. She's unique and stuff. Basically, other women boast about the older women looking for younger men and stuff. Okay. I'm not saying all of them, but I'm just stating that that's what society is. We're witnessing in society right now. Okay. And it's not granted, there's a small number of men out there who's actively trying to pursue these younger girls and everything. Okay, I can see the angle of predatory behavior right there. But there's also men out there, who may prefer them, but they're not actually actively chasing after them and stuff because of the fact that they see how fun they are to be around them and everything. They're not trying to control them at all. Okay, they're just simply getting to know them better as a woman. They're trying to see what their values are as a woman and a person, and how their character is as a human being. It's that simple. Same thing with people in relationships who are looking for relationships with women who are of the same age. Okay, the number one factor that comes into it is the woman's character, no matter her age. It's that simple.
They are being non-consensual relationships. How do you?
Yeah, I'm just saying what would make him a predator. So what would make a 30-year-old guy a for wanting to date 18-year-olds then?
Yeah, because you can know that they have less experience with dating.
Hold on.
It's easier to get them to do what they want to do.
Go ahead.
So I think Michaela Peterson actually made a tweet about this the other day. It went pretty viral. I think it's just cope for older women.
Totally.
Like being jealous of the younger women that are still fertile and desired by older men.
I don't agree entirely. I've been approached by a 20-year-old that wanted to date me so badly.
Stop. Let her finish her point.
Okay, I think I lost my train of thought. But basically,
that's why we don't want people interrupting. If you can.
Fertility.
Michaela Peterson.
Well, you were referencing Michaela Peterson.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So basically, it's not because most of the time that the men are desiring the women for their age, it's because they're desiring the traits of, like, the typical traits of a woman that age.
Not every younger woman is going to be fertile.
It's more typical.
Okay, bean soup, guys. Bean soup.
It's not about fertility, it's about a multiple mind.
Arguing outliers, and it just like...
Yes.
Let me ask you a question. Do you believe in the idea of like biological evolution?
Yes.
Okay. So the whole idea of evolution is to procreate, right? It's to reproduce. That's like the primary edict.
Yes.
So wouldn't attraction be built into that primary edict?
Yes.
Okay. So what would a man then be looking for the most based on attraction from an evolutionary standpoint to guarantee reproduction?
Childbearing hips, fertile
young women. Wait, young women?
I mean, they don't have
Ew. Not women their own age with
What's
the same
wrong with
maturity
Women that aren't
levels?
disrespecting them.
No, I'm saying automatically young women. That's sounding
Why?
as fuck.
Why is it
Not
predatory?
every
Well,
man
hang on.
wants to
You mean
reproduce
adults?
either.
Hang on, adult women.
We're not,
We can't act like when you're always looking for a young, we're talking about like much younger.
Yeah, I am
too.
talking about that too.
We're not talking about like 15-year-olds. We're
No,
talking
we're
about
not. We're
adult
talking about
women.
18. We're
Yes,
talking about
we're talking
18-year-olds, which I do consider children.
We're talking about
18.
I know that.
If you're
I know that. There's still differences.
Hang on, help me out here. If I'm wrong, if I'm
graduated high school.
hang on, if I'm wrong, just help me out here.
Yeah,
Walk-
18-year-olds.
just hang on. Just walk through this with me. Do you believe that evolution's true?
Yes.
Okay. Is the primary edict of evolution to reproduce? That's the
Yes.
okay. So is attraction built into reproduction? You can't reproduce
Yeah,
with
it's
people.
one of the things that
Well,
leads
hang on.
to
Well, it's the only.
reproduction, and reproduction can also happen without a relationship and marriage. But
Totally.
we're also talking in the sense of a relationship.
I'm just talking about
and
attraction.
marriage.
I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking about attraction. Absent attraction, there's no reproduction.
Well, I'm not talking about us like we're animals right
But
now.
I'm talking
us like
about
we're
humans. If you're not attracted to another human, you're not going to reproduce with them.
So you can't be attracted to someone your own age.
Yeah, okay, that's not what I'm saying.
Or close to your age?
I'm just asking you
Yeah, of
about
course you
attraction.
can.
So then, if the primary edict is to reproduce, right, and it is,
Mm-hmm.
then what do you think would be built in evolutionarily to men for who they should be most attracted to if reproduction's the primary edict? Wouldn't it be younger, fertile women?
Yeah, but
Exactly.
That's on a,
Exactly.
yeah, but that's just one thing, and there's so many points to it. Younger fertile women. Okay, so now you're thinking about the mother. This is the mother of my child. Is this younger fertile woman just gonna be your point of your option because she's young and fertile?
No, but
Or
it's
do you
going to
need
be a
consider
primary reason.
Things like,
Yeah, I agree.
do you need to
Look,
consider other things like
I agree with
maturity,
you.
who she
Yep.
is, her family, whatever.
I agree with you in the point
Or
that
education.
that humans use logic and reason in these various. We have various capabilities. We're not just at root, just pure instinct. But attraction is the primary thing that matters for the beginning of a relationship. Very difficult for women to date men they're not attracted to, and it's very difficult for men. They might see a woman they're not particularly attracted to, but they're probably not going to date a woman that they're not attracted to at all. So attraction's the primary edict that would even start the idea of reproduction.
So you
if it's
genetics.
the case that men, from your own perspective, would be attracted to younger women, of course they're going to be. Of course they are, and of course they're going to pursue that. That's what they're attracted to.
It's
Okay, Andrew Wilson simply stating here that, it's not that the men are attracted to younger women. It's just certain younger women out there, that they're attracted to. Okay, that's all that Andrew Wilson is stating right here, this last part, as well as the fact that, Andrew Wilson basically stated that, or forces the panel to actually consider whether their objections are based on actual harm or simply a desire to go ahead and infantilize young women, or in other words, having a big obsession over only younger women. Okay, but this conversation definitely took a turn at the last part over evolutionary psychology and stuff. And Andrew Wilson simply explained why men are naturally attracted to youth and fertility. Okay. And then the other woman on the panel attempted to make the issue about, power imbalances and stuff. And that's when Andrew Wilson actually highlighted how these problems can exist in any relationship, regardless of age. So as usual, let me know your thoughts about this whole age gap relationship debate with Andrew Wilson, as he definitely nukes the woke feminist lies in this intense debate. And I'll see you all in the next one.